Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below.
Hello and welcome to Furious Driving. And today I've gone back to the 50s to look at, well, motoring history is full of coulda beens. This though, the MGA, is a motoring almost wasn't. Watch on and find out more. Now, if you like reviews of interesting, unusual, classic, vintage, retro and modern cars, then please do it, like and subscribe. And this car is actually for sale at Percival Motor Company at Lenham in Kent. So if you're interested, check the link in the description. Now, it really cannot be emphasised enough how massive a change this car was and a progress from the previous car, the T-Series, which had been in production since before the Second World War, long before the Second World War. And, well, as with so many other manufacturers, MG had nothing when the war ended. They had to quickly press it back into service with a few updates for the post-war years. This car though, although it didn't arrive until 1954, it first evolved as an idea in 1951 as a Le Mans racer, designed by Sid Evener. They took a T-Series chassis, clothed it in a body which looked remarkably similar to this, but because of the narrowness of the T chassis rails, the seat was very, very high up indeed. But the idea was already there. Now, MG knew they needed to replace their old pre-war car because, well, it was ancient. The world was moving on. However, Lord, with his usual finger on the pulse of the moment and his innate dislike of Lord Nuffield, well, he was the head of BMC at that time and so had full control over everything. He'd recently done a deal with Donald Healey to put the Austin Healey into production, so didn't want another two-seater sports car and felt that TF sales would soldier on quite happily. He was wrong. They were rapidly dwindling, and so his hand was forced. And so EX176 became EX175 and prototyping began in earnest. Now, the genius of this car is what they've done with the chassis. Whereas on the T-Series, you're sitting virtually on top of the chassis rails. In the MGA, or the UA as it would have been called, where they decided that it was such a new and exciting development, it was the start of a new series. So they needed to change the naming nomenclature entirely. So what they've done, they've taken the chassis rails and pushed them right out to the edge, to the sills. And instead of mounting the floor panels on top of the chassis rails, they're now mounted to the bottom of the chassis rails. That gives you an awful lot more space inside the car. So the seats are now mounted low down between the chassis rails. So you're sitting right down low, you're hunkered into the car, your bum is scraping the floor. You're enclosed inside this little torpedo. It's fabulous.
Although outsold by both the T-Series before and the B after, the A was the best-selling sports car in the world in the 1950s, with 101,081 built across Abingdon and Australia.
This is a car which is so quintessentially British and 1950s, I've unironically broken out the tweed. Oh, a chimney, I love those. Now, it used the new B series, originally 1489 cc's, but it grew over the years in terms of cc's and power output. This one though is something of a resto mod.
The original 1500 1489cc with twin SUs made 72 horsepower and could hit 98 miles an hour. And from 1958, the twin cam 1600 high compression with aluminium head came out with a significant power bump to 108 bhp, but it did prove quite unreliable. So in 1959, they introduced the 1600, which solved those issues with slightly less power at 79 horsepower.
This car has quite a heavily breathed on B series with a gas-flowed head on it.
It has a fast-strode 1800, lightened and balanced with a tubular manifold and uprated suspension.
And it's also got a 5-speed in it, which makes it an awful lot of fun. They're fun to start with, but this just takes it to a whole other level. Well, let's take a quick look around this thing, because it is arguably one of the prettiest cars I think that's ever been made. There's not a bad line on it. It's got curves in literally all the right places. So we start at the front with a beautiful waterfall grille, just curving just beautifully down to the bumper, and it curves from top to bottom and side to side, so it's just a lovely kind of cylindrical thing, and that sweeps up into this long, very long for such a small car, very narrow in fact, bonnet, again curving in every direction. And then they come to the wings. This is a huge departure for MG. We're not having the separate wings and body anymore. It is now an all-inclusive pontoon or pontoon style body with the wings as part of the car, so the structure of the car and the wings of the car are all the same thing. And this sweeps back, and it's a low cut door, no door handle on the outside. You notice you have to reach in and pull the cord on the inside of the door to open it, up to the back where it curves out again, up to this big bulbous D-type Ferrari-esque rear wings, which look so cool, make it look so powerful. And this car's got some slightly oversized tyres on it as well, so it really fills the arches. Moving to the back, where again it's just very, very sleek. The whole thing is beautiful. Now climbing inside, and it is typical 1950s sports car simplicity at its best. The doors do actually have door pockets, which is quite a luxury for the 50s, although basically all it is a big opening in the door card which runs all the way through to the door cavity. The only other item of interest you get in there is this cord which you pull to unlatch the door. This stuff is just for attaching your wet weather gear. Looking inside the car, we have got the lowest little seats you've ever seen. I'm going to try and climb in with a modicum of dignity, which is surprisingly difficult because there's not much space between, well, the door, the post and the seat just here. And if you've got size 11 feet like I have, it can be a touch tricky. So you sit with your feet right out there in front of you and your bum tight on the floor. Now in front of us we have got a small amount of T-shelf area between the screen and this little bit of padding, which is what passes for safety in the 1950s. If you're going to crash, don't worry, we've put about an inch's worth of padded vinyl, so I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. There are a couple of vents which blow up onto the windscreen, and we've also got, I think these are aftermarket, these little corner screens as well, which I think might be aftermarket, just to keep the breeze away from you. And a curious little thing you'll notice here, because it is a roadster, so nothing to hang the rear view mirror to, the mirror is actually attached here to the dashboard. And let's look at the dashboard itself. Actually quite a lot going on for a 50s car. We've got a little courtesy light here on the left, got a radio which I think is a modern radio with the old-fashioned looks to it. We've got a speaker for said radio in the centre. We've got a heater, that's proper luxury just here. It wasn't a cheap car though. And in front of the driver we've got three big dials. We've got the speedometer, we've got the rev counter, and we've got a double one with the water and oil just there. And then scattered as if someone was sitting in the boot and just randomly threw them out the dashboard, we've got our controls for the wiper choke, the starter, lights, various other things. And these are the indicators here on the right hand side, this big ka-chunky thing just there. Moving back, and I'm going to struggle to get this into a shot. I'm going to have to hold the camera way over here and try and get me and the thing in shot just here. The steering wheel is absolutely massive with this tiny spindly rim. It comes right down into your lap, but because you're sitting so low in the car, your chin is level with the top of it, which is quite a curious position to be in. One thing I do love about these old cars are these little crystalline lights you get in the dashboard, and this is something that just kind of takes me back to my childhood, seeing these little lights just there. Got the ignition, the headlights, one over here for, I guess, the indicators or something. And of course, being a 50s British sports car, it's got the ubiquitous fly-off handbrake down there. And that really is about it as far as equipment goes inside the car. You feel like you're sitting so low inside it and your feet are so far in front. This car has actually got a 5-speed manual in it, so slightly different to what you would have seen as standard. We do have a little armrest here in the centre, and there's a little bit of storage down where the roof is living under that tonneau in the back, and that's basically it. Now there is a boot, but it is not exactly commodious. I mean, you've got the spare wheel taking up most of it, and I've seen glove boxes with more capacity, so yeah, there we go, it's a thing. Now the drive really is quite exciting. You feel very much in control of it. No power steering, so it's very direct, straight from the wheel to the road kind of inputs. This car's got discs on the front, and the brakes are surprisingly powerful. It's got a rigid rear axle with semi-elliptic springs and coils at the front, and it rides really rather well. This really is the sound of, well, the British summer, the middle of the 20th century. Just need to find some thatch roof pub to pull up and have a pint of something local in, and the day will be perfect. The steering wheel feels so spindly and huge in your hands, it's hilarious. Oh, this is so much fun! It loves the B road. It's great having fifth as well, just pop it into that high gear. Drop the engine revs for a moment. And these cars might look cute, innocent, sweet almost, but they really do just go down the road so well. They can really attack a corner and get some pretty decent speed. This one especially, with all the resto mod stuff on it. But these were hugely successful in competition back in the day. Bill Body from Motorsport magazine, the legendary Bill Body, he absolutely adored them. I hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this absolutely fantastic slice of the perfect British sports car. If you have, please hit like and subscribe. Join me again next time driving something completely different.